we've got a critical game in Week 10, and it doesn't help that the Texans have some injuries. The Jags have their fair share as well. So on today's show, we're going to be going over all of the injuries for this game and how it is going to impact this AFC South divisional game between the Jags and the Texans. And first off, we got to start off. This is what everybody wants to talk about. This is what everybody knows. CJ Stroud officially ruled out this week up against Jacksonville. And, you know, it was a slim chance that Stroud would be able to go this Sunday because, you know, let's face the facts. This past weekend on Sunday, Stroud was knocked out up against the Denver Broncos. He was out cold for multiple seconds. He was in the fencing position. So when that happens with the new concussion protocol, with what the NFL has gone through in terms of concussions and, you know, having players concuss, CTE, everything like that, it was going to be a long shot for Stroud to be out there. I think if this was 2005, 2010, if it was up to CJ Stroud and DeMeco Ryans and the Texans medical staff, I think you would have seen 7 out there this week. Hell, you might have even seen CJ playing the second half up against the Broncos. But this isn't the 2005 NFL. This isn't the 2010 NFL. This is the NFL where, you know, they're going to take more precautions. Probably rightfully so to make sure the players are, you know, better off in the long run. But it does suck. It is a big blow to this Texans team. And, you know, they're going to have guys step up, namely Davis Mills. He started before for the Houston Texans. He started multiple seasons. You know, didn't play his best game up against the Broncos, but I think with a week of preparation, I think we could see Davis Mills step up and play a big part in a Texans win this Sunday because, you know, CJ, he is the captain. He is the heart and soul of this offense and this team. But Davis Mills has experience. Davis Mills, you know, I think against the Broncos, the first couple of drives looked good. Halftime, they made adjustments, and, you know, the Broncos have one of the best defenses in the NFL as well. So I'd like to see Davis Mills out there ball out for old time's sake. Mills Mafia, Money Mills, can we get another great performance from you? Let me know down in the chat, and be honest with me. Do the Texans stand a chance this week? And after I go through the injury report for both teams, your answer actually might change on this one because I think a lot of people are going to say no to this, which is fine. Let me know your honest answer. Do the Texans stand a chance up against the Jags this week? But wait to see how many injuries the Jags have as well on their side. Let's stick with the Texans, though, and their injury report. Jaylin Smith put on IR, second time this year, so that means per NFL rules, he will miss the remainder of this season. And it sucks because it's also his birthday today. So happy birthday to Jaylin Smith, but also ruled out for the rest of the season. The Texans' third-round pick out of USC had a lot of promise. You know, had a really good training camp preseason. The coaches were raving a lot about Jaylin Smith. Injuries have kind of plagued his rookie season, so hopefully he'll be able to come back stronger next year for this Texans squad. Another player put on IR, short-term IR for Darrell Taylor. He will miss at least the next 4 games of this Texans season. The edge rusher who they signed in free agency this offseason. You know, not a huge blow on this one, but still, you know, the Texans defense, that defensive line, they like to rotate these guys in. So this is one less guy that they can put in for Will Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter, if they need a breather. Another guy who left Week 9 up against the Denver Broncos, Christian Harris. He will be questionable with a shin injury. Did not practice today on Wednesday, so his status for this weekend is up in the air. But another guy who's a rotational piece, a special teams player at this point, Christian Harris. So we'll have to see the update on him. Another guy who likely will not be able to play this Sunday, Texans right tackle Tytus Howard. At the time that I am filming, I don't think we have a definitive answer, yes or no, whether or not Tytus Howard will be out on Sunday. But another player who is in concussion protocol this week is, you know, somebody who maybe has been one of the better players on this Texans offensive line at that right tackle spot, one of the veterans on this unit. So without him, that means Blake Fisher, the second-year man out of Notre Dame, the former second-round pick, will take over at the right tackle spot for this Texans team on Sunday if Tytus Howard isn't able to go. Also, another player that is probably not going to be able to go, DeMeco Ryans did not give a very, I would say, glowing remark on Kymie's health going into this weekend. Questionable with a leg injury is Kymie Fairbairn, and it's sounding like he's not going to be able to go on Sunday. The Texans already made a move in corresponding to the injury with Kymie Fairbairn. They signed Matthew Wright to the practice squad, and they released Dalton Keene, the tight end fullback combo. So most likely you'll be seeing Matthew Wright suited up for the Texans this weekend, kicking field goals and kicking it off. Also, from ESPN's DJ Bieniemy, people who we didn't see at Texans practice, obviously CJ Stroud, who was ruled out. Jalen Petrie wasn't at practice today. Nick Chubb, Kymie Fairbairn, who likely won't be out there. Will Anderson and Tytus Howard. So not a good list of players to not be practicing Wednesday before key game for this Texans team. Every single game for the rest of the season is a key game for this squad if they have any playoff aspirations. But I'm not going to say on the bright side because I'm never going to root for injury. I'm not going to say, good thing that the Jags have injuries. But it's not just the Texans that are dealing with these mid-season injury woes. It's also the team we're playing this Sunday in Jacksonville. I'll get to all the injuries that they have in just a moment. But first, got to tell you about our friends over at Prize Picks. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be a changing, but the feeling of being right, that never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. It's super simple to play. Just pick more or less on two-player stats. If you get your picks right, you can cash in and win big time. And this is the lineup that I'm putting out for this Sunday. Money Mills. Can he get us a passing touchdown? I went the more on that. Also, one thing about Davis Mills, he is going to feed Nico Collins. So I'm going the more on Nico's longest reception because those two actually have a pretty decent connection. Silver lining in the CJ Stroud injury is I think Nico Collins, Davis Mills, they've played with each other before, so they have that good continuity between the two of them. We saw one of the first plays Davis Mills was in there. He sent a long ball to Nico Collins down the sideline. So give me the more on that longest reception. This one's a very interesting one, Producer Jack. Travis Etienne. 3.5 yards on his first rush. So it's all on that first rush by Etienne. I went less on the 3.5. I think that's a fun one. And then Trevor Lawrence, this defense, no fly zone. Let's get a pick this Sunday up against Lawrence. If all these hit, well, I'm going to be a happy man and a wealthier man. And the one thing I love about Prize Picks, because last week I had CJ Stroud in my lineup, they offer injury reboots. So if one of your players leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks won't count it as a loss. That really saved my butt this past weekend. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Shout out to them. And if you want any of that information, it is down in the comment section and description of today's video. Go check them out today. Our sponsor, Prize Picks. All right, so this was last week. Don't want to, if you're watching this close to this Sunday game, this is not the inactive list up against the Houston Texans. This was up against the Raiders in Week 9, but just wanted to show you that to kind of a precursor that what we'll be watching this week in terms of injuries. And the number one player that I'm looking at is Devin Lloyd, arguably the best player on this Jags defense, has missed quite a bit of time. Week 6, he sustained an injury up against Seattle. He sustained a calf injury, did not travel with the team to London in Week 7, then did not play this past week up against the Raiders in Week 9. They had a bye week in Week 8, so it's been, 4 weeks since Devin Lloyd has hit the field. They're really slow playing his injury. Liam Cohen said, he had a lot of calf injuries last year whenever he was a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he's seen how if you come back too soon, that it could re-injure that calf. Kind of what happened with Christian Harris last year. But Devin Lloyd, he is going to be a big question mark. He was limited all last week, was a game-time decision. They decided to make him an inactive. Will he play this week up against the Houston Texans? This is going to be a huge name for this Texans team. They're already to their backup quarterback. He is the quarterback of the Jags defense. He is the best player for them. So we need to be seeing what Devin Lloyd's injury status is throughout the rest of this week and if he's going to play on Sunday. Another player who has been really good for this Jags defense, a sneaky free agent signing they had this offseason, Jourdan Lewis, former member of the Dallas Cowboys. He left week 9 with a shoulder injury. Remember, he's the one that had one of those key picks up against C.J. Stroud when the Jags beat the Texans earlier on in the season. He is a big question mark for this Sunday, whether or not he's going to be able to go. Also, speaking of the secondary, Jags are down a lot of players. They made a trade with the Browns earlier in a couple weeks ago. It was Tyson Campbell for Greg Newsome, so they added another player to their secondary, but their second overall pick, Travis Hunter, he was put on short-term IR. Same with former Texans player Eric Murray. He was put on short-term IR, so we will not see these guys playing for the Jacksonville Jags secondary this weekend. Going along with some more Jags injuries, Ezra Cleveland left the Week 9 game up against Las Vegas with a knee injury and ankle injury. His status is up in the air for Week 10 up against the Texans. Also, Dyami Brown, one of their electric wide receivers, he is questionable with a concussion. So, like we said, Stroud, Tytus Howard, they have to go through NFL concussion protocol. It's not up to the team or coaches or the player. It's up to independent doctors set by the NFL. So, Dyami Brown going through that same concussion protocol. So, we'll see if he's ready to go this Sunday. And one of their best players on offense, Brian Thomas Jr., the electric wide receiver, he is questionable with an ankle and shoulder injury. 30 receptions, 420 yards. Nice so far for Brian Thomas Jr. So, the Jags going to be without possibly a couple of their really good receivers. Probably why they made this move yesterday during the NFL trade deadline. Going for Jakobi Meyers. They sent a 4th and a 6th round pick to the Las Vegas Raiders for his services. And, you know, a big get by Jacksonville, in my opinion, because they needed wide receiver help. Parker Washington has played well for them. But if Brian Thomas Jr., if Dyami Brown are out, look for the brand new Jag, Jakobi Meyers, to be a big part of their offense in Week 10. And the Texans, they probably need to focus in on Jakobi Meyers. I know he's brand new. I don't know how up to speed he's going to be with the playbook by Sunday, but I would guess that he's going to be suited and ready to go for this Jags team with all the injuries they have at the wide receiver spot. And this is the point in the video I'd usually give you, a list of, 4 to 5 keys to victory and say, oh, yeah, we need to, get after Trevor Lawrence. We need to stop Travis Etienne, this, that, and the other. Let's be honest, guys. At this point in the season, with how this team has played, with how this season has gone, it's up to the defense. We saw it this past weekend. We saw it up against the Broncos. It's up to the defense. They got to play 4 quarters of swarm defense. They need to suffocate this Jags offense all day long, and the Texans just need to find a way to get a touchdown. Can they get maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns, put up 14 points, 17 points, and I think the Texans have a chance. Because the Jags almost lost to the Raiders in Week 9. The Raiders took them to overtime. And if this Texans team wants to beat the Jags, it's a home game. They need to take control of this game with the time of possession. They need to be able to run the ball. They need to stop Trevor Lawrence in this Jags passing attack and get after him. Maybe get a couple turnovers on defense. But if we're going to be honest, it's a long shot. This Texans team with a backup quarterback in Davis Mills needs to come out, and they need to play some inspired football. And the coaching staff needs to have these guys ready to go by Sunday. I think that might be in part why D'Amico Ryans decided to rule C.J. Stroud out already this early in the week to say, hey, let's get it. Let's say, C.J. Stroud's out. Let's all put our wagons behind Davis Mills and get ready to go into battle. That's all I have for you on today's show, folks. If you made it to the end of this segment, well, you're an absolute real one. Spam those H's down in the comments section. Appreciate you all. And reminder, I'll be live this Sunday for Texans and Jags 30 minutes before kickoff. So don't miss out. Be there, and let's root on our Texans for a surprising victory up against the Jags.